Tonight on UCTV News, a former UConn president dies, his impact on the university, Gamble turns 30, how has the building stayed up all these years, and attendance stays down at Rensselaer, what UConn is doing to turn it all around.
Plus, UCTV News reporter Luke Hajdasz sits down with UConn president Thomas Katsouleas. The full interview ahead. UCTV News starts right now.
UConn's 10th president, John Dimaggio, died this past week at the age of 87. Dimaggio served as president from 1979 to 1985 and laid the groundwork down for the university's growth and expansion. He was popular with students and frequently ate in the campus dining halls. Dimaggio even participated in a game of oozball while dressed as the university's mascot. He was spoken highly from many of his peers and left a lasting impression here at UConn.
30 years of Gamble, one of UConn's most iconic landmarks in the heart of the Storrs campus, is celebrating its 30th birthday this month. The recognizable silver dome was recently touched up by repairing 2,200 roof panels, but all the moments and memories are still intact. Over the course of the 30 years, the UConn men's basketball team has had a 187-36 record.
Rensselaer Field is facing its largest financial loss since opening in 2003, as attendance at UConn football games has plummeted, the Hartford Courant reports. The 40,000-seat stadium is rapidly approaching toward $1 million in debt due to the decline in attendance at UConn football games since 2014. UConn pays approximately $172 in rent per game at the stadium. UConn Athletic Director David Benedict is working to boost revenues and cut costs. Ideas include closing the south gate and the parking lots on the south side and having season ticket holders park in one lot instead of two. One UConn student decided she needed to take action when she saw the destruction left behind by the Australian wildfires.
Here's UCTV News reporter Luke Hajdasz.
These 3 small koala-decorated cookies are made right here in Storrs, but they're making a big difference halfway across the world.
I want to do something to help, and I love baking, so I figured I'd try and combine the two to kind of get the best out of both.
Some flour, eggs, butter, milk, and icing, and you get a koala. If your UConn senior Liv Schoenbeck, that's the end result, all in an effort to help animals hurt in the Australian wildfires.
Specifically the ones that were in the flames or just in the fire-affected areas where it was pretty desolate. There really wasn't anything green. It was just dark and burnt, and that really got to me. I've always loved animals.
Schoenbeck first posted on the UConn Buy or Sell Facebook page advertising the call to action, and she says she got quite the reaction from the UConn community.
Surprisingly good. I was definitely worried that it was going to be a lot more lackluster, but a lot of people ordered. A lot of people commended me on what I was doing, which, always feels good. And it was just a really positive experience all around.
Now, Schoenbeck says that the efforts were incredibly successful, and she'll be able to donate about $210 to the Wires Wildlife Rescue. For UCTV News, I'm Luke Hajdasz.
TEDx UConn is looking for passionate students to speak at the upcoming conference. TEDx UConn holds live presentations on topics in which the speaker is extremely knowledgeable about and show their passion for the topic. According to the Daily Campus, nearly 40 students apply for the conference each year. Students must submit a 2-minute-long video that highlights their idea. The pool of students is then cut down to 10 applicants and have to present a 5 to 10-minute audition. The deadline to apply is this Friday.
UConn has released new data announcing new Fulbright scholars teaching at UConn. Connecticut's flagship institution currently has 6 Fulbright scholars on staff teaching and conducting research this academic year. UConn is being recognized as one of the nation's top Fulbright scholar producers. Worldwide, the Fulbright U.S. Scholar Program operates in over 125 countries. With one semester under his belt, UConn president Thomas Katsouleas sat down with UCTV News reporter Luke Hajdasz to discuss everything from controversy with the rec center dress code and keeping UConn grads in Connecticut.
So we'll begin with your big effort of doubling research at UConn. How's things going within the first few months here?
Oh, well, it's been really well received. I've been pleased to hear people embracing and engaging the challenge and beginning to think about and talk about what would it take for us to do that? What are the strategies we can use? We had a great discussion of it at a Dean's Retreat in mid-November, And the deans are thinking about how to do that at each of their schools. And we have a fantastic VPR, Redenka Merrick, and she's leading a faculty working group that's thinking about what are the investments we have to make in order to achieve that goal. And we have an announcement coming out very soon, as soon as we get approval from the federal government to change our fringe rate for our faculty so that we can lower the fringe rate to allow them to compete for federal grants on a level playing field with our peers. Right now our fringe rate is artificially quite a bit higher than all the other universities we compete with. And I think that'll be a big boost both in morale and in real substance to our research program. So that's our first investment we'll be making.
HartfordBusiness.com said that UConn can give its northern neighbor, MIT, a run for its money when it comes to midwifing new, innovative companies born on campus, and said that UConn can be the East Coast answer to the Silicon Valley adjacent Stanford. Can UConn compete with MIT and Stanford?
Well, we do go toe-to-toe and compete for faculty, and we do compete for venture funding. And so we're not going to win all of those competitions, but we're going to win our share, and that's how we're going to move upward in the research rankings, absolutely, and in terms of generating spin-outs. And we already do fairly well, in terms of punching at our weight class. In terms of number of startup companies we have per $1 million of research funding. We're right on par with MIT and Stanford, but we're not at that level in terms of the number of dollars of research funding we have. But with what we do with it, we do compete on par in the statistics.
What about working with government officials in Connecticut, like Governor Lamont, and keeping graduates in the state of Connecticut? Does UConn have a responsibility to do that to the state?
Well, yeah, as a state public flagship university, our role includes meeting the education and workforce needs of the state, and partnering with the government, partnering with industries to identify what are the areas of greatest need, and then refocusing our efforts on those priorities. And that's what we're doing. We're also doing that in partnership with other schools across the state. That's part of what I see as our role as a flagship, is not just to train students ourselves, but to be a leader and coordinate the efforts of the state colleges, even community colleges and high schools, to do a kind of whole workforce development that no single university can do or single college can do, but working together we can to meet the needs of the state.
What other schools are you working with?
So all of the state colleges, the community colleges, there's a workforce development council that the governor has created, and we're working through that vehicle to do coordinated workforce education that meets the need of the state.
Your second big initiative, the Connecticut Commitment,
yeah,
and all that. You said more need-based scholarships will be accompanying the big initiative. Does UConn need more students, or do UConn students need a break?
I think that we need to be more affordable to the students who deserve to come here, and make sure that they can afford to come here, that they know that we want them to come here. And so there's a kind of multiple purpose to this Connecticut Commitment. One is to sharpen the message and make a clear signal that, sometimes the financial aid rules can be so complex that students don't realize how committed we are to having them come here and to be affordable. And so by setting a simple threshold of $50,000 of annual income per family, and with typical assets, that a student who is admitted to UConn would come without any charge for tuition. And so that's a nice, clean, clear message, which we hope will attract more deserving students to apply.
Were you expecting the pushback from Senator Fasano and others, or?
No, I wasn't really. So you kind of ask yourself, gee, what's not to love about this plan? We're talking about making it more affordable, and we're also talking about the source of funding would be new money that comes from generous donors who would be inspired by the mission that this serves. And so far that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a good response from our donors who are excited about what this means for transforming the mission of a great public university.
I was going to ask, how do you get more of those generous donors?
Yeah.
They're already coming in because of the initiative?
Yeah, we actually had one corporate leader come and contact us after the announcement and said, we have a multi-year pledge to you, and we weren't due to come back and give you any more for another 3 or 4 years, but we were so inspired by this program, we'd like to give something just to that program in addition to what we've already committed. So we're working with that company now to roll that out, so that's in process.
Do you consider that to be your biggest achievement so far, the Connecticut commitment?
Yeah, it's been 4 months, so there's a couple of things that I feel very proud of, and with the support of the board, rolling out Connecticut commitment is one of them. It's a commitment to affordable excellence, and I think it puts us in a group of great universities across the country that are kind of going this way and trying to change the narrative about higher education, that it is in fact affordable and valuable, and it is for you. It's not just for the elite.
What are some of the others?
Well, I think I'm proud of the conversation we had the other day called the Fishbowl Diversity Dialogue. It was really extraordinary to see the ballroom at the Student Union completely filled and sold out. In fact, we had to turn people away in the end who were thirsty to have conversations about how we feel about race and racism and how we can create a more open culture for exchange of ideas and for creating the environment and culture that we value and desire. And so I'd say that was a big success, and I'm looking forward to that rolling out to we had some regional campus participation. Some students came from the regional campuses, and those students asked that we replicate that at each of the regionals, and so we're in the process of doing that for next semester. So I think that was a big plus. I think creating the Student Diversity Council, President's Student Diversity Council, and the President's Advisory Council on climate change was a big highlight for the first 4 months. So I'm very excited about that group. It's about half students, includes undergrads and grads, and about half faculty and staff. And it's really a group of subject matter experts. So this is not meant to be a sort of representing various groups, but it's meant to be a real working group that is going to be charged with doing creative brainstorming, analysis, critical thinking. It's a great learning opportunity for the students because it allows students with expertise from various domains, including behavior policy, environmental science, and engineering, to apply what they've learned in the classroom to a real-world situation where it is going to have an impact on this university for decades to come.
What's the biggest hurdle facing UConn right now?
I see more opportunities than hurdles. I mean, the easy answer is always to say the biggest hurdle is financial. There's always, but that's always a given. So within the constraints that you have financially, what can you do? And I think I see tremendous opportunity. One of the reasons I came here is that this has been a very supportive state, and it's made an investment in this university over decades, $5 billion of capital infrastructure, and there's a great opportunity right now to capitalize on that investment, these beautiful buildings, and fill them with even more talented faculty and students and more outstanding programs. And we have a lot in that regard to build on. We have great students and faculty, and we have some nation-leading programs, and we can build on those. And one of the opportunities I see is to lead the country in where liberal arts education goes for the 21st century, which is about rolling out the kinds of life transformative experiences that many of our students get, but rolling it out to every student at a scale of 24,000. And so you asked me what were some of the accomplishments. Through the Provost's office, we've just recently formed a working group that's very diverse in terms of its faculty, its staff, career services people, all interested in this topic of how do we bring life transformative education to every student. And next semester we'll be adding a large group of students to that working group, and we'll begin to really roll up our sleeves and get to work on how do we realize this challenge that I've thrown out, and we'll see how it plays out. I'm excited about it.
How do you come up with all of these committees and groups, and are they all based off of events and where you see a need, or are they prior based?
That's a great
ideas?
Question, actually, because it's a mix of those two.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of things I didn't see coming. I think the climate change march, I didn't see that coming when I came here. But we were making some major infrastructure decisions around that time, and so it coincided with the marchers, and we took advantage of the student interest and The impetus that protest created for change, to relook at some of the decisions that had been made in the past and see if we could do something better. So that was not something I anticipated. On the other hand, the idea of life transformative education really nucleated, in a national survey that was done and released in about 2015. And that, I and a couple of my colleagues were looking at that survey, and it showed such profound correlations between certain types of learning experiences and later well-being in life and work engagement in life that we asked ourselves, if these correlate that strongly, shouldn't we as educators be more intentional about connecting about bringing those kinds of experiences to every student? And that's what sort of led to this. And then when I came and interviewed at UConn, I found so much to build on that was in that direction that it was just a natural step to suggest if UConn could expand what it's already doing and take it to scale of 24,000, there's an opportunity here to benefit our students and to lead the country.
What about, we had touched upon it briefly earlier, all of the conversations and committees on race and dialogues about that. Where does that preparation come from? Because that whole incident kind of came out of the blue, right?
Yeah.
How do you prepare? How do you react?
Yeah.
What goes into that?
Yeah. So that was a mix of responding and actually planned prioritization. So when I came here and I met with various groups, including the search committees and various constituencies of students, faculty, and staff, I heard their concern for diversity and inclusion. And this was clearly a high priority for this university, and it's one that I shared. And so, I knew that was going to be one of the priorities that I came in with. And then, of course, the events really accelerated that on the schedule. But we had a strategic planning retreat with the deans I mentioned, and there were two main strategic planning agenda items. One was how do we double research, and the other was how do we achieve the environment and culture that we value with respect to diversity and inclusion. And so we spent a lot of time with the deans thinking about what should be our goals, and settled on a couple of high-level goals, one of which was growing the diversity of the faculty, and the other was creating a more open culture for exchange of ideas and discourse, and including uncomfortable conversation. And so those are the two overarching goals the deans decided on, and each dean is now taking that back to their school and beginning to think about what would be the diversity plan and inclusion plan for their school that would further those two objectives.
How do you attract more diverse faculty? How does that,
one of the things I'm really excited about is we have we bring a really creative and aggressive approach to faculty recruitment here. Some of the things have antecedents here before. Cluster hiring is something that we've done at UConn in the past. We're bringing that back, and the second area is called targeted opportunity hires, and these are the opposite of clusters. Clusters are very strategic. You decide an area where you have strength to build on, and you see great opportunity for continued growth in the academic landscape. And so you focus on those efforts and you hire multiple people in those efforts. You insist that the cluster be diverse, so it gives you a chance to pull a broad pool of people and bring in a diverse and talented faculty. On the opposite end of the spectrum from very strategic is very opportunistic, and that's what the target of opportunity hires are. And you ask the faculty to get together and think about who among their colleagues around the country or around the world they would most like to recruit to be colleagues here at UConn. And we shake the tree a little and see if we can shake any of them loose. And then there's a third category that we're just now working on and proposing for outside funding for, which is called innovation professors. So this would be a cadre of faculty who, in addition to their strong scholarship and academic backgrounds, have a track record of creating valuable intellectual property, applying their scholarship to societally important challenges, translational research, generating startups, new company, new products, turning out students and postdocs who start companies. We're looking for that kind of an innovation faculty member, and we're trying to take a broader view towards how we promote and select and provide merit increases. So it's within the scope of our existing policies. We have the flexibility to recognize these other indicators of success and things that we value, but we haven't really been intentional about applying that. And that's what this new category would do. So it's quite exciting. We'll see how it goes. I think we'll be one of the first places in the country to do this.
A model.
Could be.
A model.
Could be. It would be, one measure of success would be that, 5 years from now, students are asking for more and more classes with those students and want more and more of those kinds of faculty. And people around the country are looking at the intellectual property that's turned out from UConn and seeing the impact it's having on the economy, and are saying, well, look at what Connecticut's doing. Our state should have a program like that. That'd be great.
What about, changing gears a little bit, UVA and Duke, what's similar between them and UConn, and what's completely different? What was the learning curve?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities actually between Duke, UVA, and UConn. Particularly when you look at UVA and UConn, both public schools, both have done very well in U.S. News and World Report ranking, and mostly on the backs of the strength of undergraduates and undergraduate completion rates and success rates. And that has driven both of those schools up in the rankings. And they're both similar in the fact that on the research ranking side, they're much further behind their student ranking side. And so each one is trying to move that direction. Similar priorities for diversity hiring, more extreme at UVA. It was, when I was there and when I started there, it was number 55 out of 56 AAU universities in faculty diversity. So it was really needing to ramp up, whereas UConn is more in the middle, but has been kind of stuck in the middle and would like to be a leader. So a lot of the same priorities, actually. And, and the students, I think the thing about the students here that really stands out compared to other places I've been is, there's a really strong sense of community and affinity for the university. And you see it in the number of students wearing UConn branded clothing and buttons and gear. And you see that at other universities, but not to the extent that you see it here. And I think it's a reflection of people have a real love for this place, and that's special. And there's a sense of school spirit and community. I found, particularly among the students, they care tremendously about each other, and they care about the university and the world at large. They care about issues like human rights and social justice, diversity and inclusion in a way that's stronger than other places I've been, I would say.
What about connecting with the students yourself? You seem to be real popular. How'd you manage that one?
Well, I don't know if I've managed it, but I love the students. And I just heard a quote at a meeting I went to at the Big East last week. What was the quote? It was something like, the students don't care about what you know till they know you care. And I really do care about our students. And I'm really wowed by how much they care about each other. My first meetings with the undergraduate student government, and I just had another one at 9 o'clock this morning, actually. But my first meeting when I was named as the next president, I asked them what was on their minds, and the first thing they wanted to talk about was, increasing the support services for branchers and transfers from the regional campuses, because they saw their friends struggling. And I said, well, who of you among you are branchers and transfers? And I looked around the room, not one of them. So they weren't advocating for themselves. They were concerned about what they saw in their peers, and they cared about them and wanted them to succeed. I was so wowed by that. And then one of the later questions was, can you get us into the Big East? So that one turned out pretty well too. I love interacting with students. I find it really valuable. The student government leaders are wonderful. I learn as much from them as they learn from me, I think. And they have insights and perspectives on how to make this place better that we as an administration just don't have. And ideas we talked about today in terms of rec center policies and student advising and things like that just wouldn't have the insight if you weren't a student experiencing them. So there were some issues there. These are not high level, but
right.
but at the same time, it's helpful for me to give that feedback to the leaders in this area so that we can improve the service and the experience. And really, it's about the experience. We want students to have a Nordstrom type of customer service experience at the rec center, and that's clearly something we need to work on a little bit.
What about social media? You got a great presence there.
Yeah, that's a new venture for me, and so it's been fun, to kind of share some of the experiences that I have and the things I find interesting and some things that I find funny, and share them with others, and that's been great. I help from Emily Zangari, who I send her all my tweets and posts, and she posts them up, but they're from me, and so.
I was going to ask, do you write them all yourself?
I write them all. Yeah.
You write them all.
And she
Instagram too.
Instagram too. So, but I do have help getting them posted up.
You had mentioned earlier the handle that you have now. What do you have now? Prez
Tomcat.
Is Prez Tomcat now?
Yeah, it's Prez Tomcat. I'm thinking I've got a new license plate. Tomcat didn't fit, so I may switch it to Prez TK.
Prez TK. Prez TK. I like that. What made you apply to UConn in the first place? Were you seeking out a presidential position somewhere?
It's interesting. My life partner Anna Maria will say that it's because of her, right? So she's a nutrition scholar, and she had a colleague here in the Rudd Center for Food Policy at the Hartford campus, and her colleague reached out and said, "Hey, there's a presidential opening," and so she brought it to me. So I knew about UConn from its academic reputation, but I wasn't really thinking about it. It wasn't on my radar, and the search firm contacted me, and independently of that, and I started to find out more about it, and I got more excited about some of the potential I saw, and some of the things I talked about earlier about the strengths that were here, the ability to build on the capital infrastructure, the supportive legislature, supportive board, and the talents of the current faculty and staff and students. And so I saw a lot of potential, and I came for an exploratory interview at beautiful Hartford Airport, where they do all the exploratory interviews. And I just had a really resonant experience with the search committee that I met with. Yeah. We just got excited, and we went through the questions, and then we started thinking about possibilities, and I think we got each other excited.
Did you apply elsewhere, can I ask?
It's much more sequential. So, I dabbled in a couple of others, and there were a couple other searches going on simultaneously with that. But once I hit resonance with UConn, I really pulled back from the others. It was clear UConn was the one that was the best fit for me.
Yeah. Let me think of how to phrase this here. What makes UConn the best fit for you? We'll leave it simple as that.
Yeah,
Is it the people?
I think at each moment in an institution's history, it has certain needs in its next leader. And I just kind of felt like where UConn was where it was poised to go, was a perfect fit for the things that I'm, have a background and history and vision for where to take it. And it's about a fit in time. It's not just a fit in place. And the other part of it was, if you look at my own history of the kinds of places I've always been drawn to. For my undergraduate degree, I picked a broad academic context, public university, UCLA. The rest of my career, it's been these broad context universities with strong athletics, academics, performing arts, medicine, the whole thing. I find that to be the most exciting. And UConn just fit that to a T. I mean, it's just this broad context, tremendous strengths to build on, great geographic advantage. And I felt like when I met with the people here, I felt that there was a resonance and a thirst that they had for the direction that I was interested in suggesting. And so it was that resonance really with the people that made the difference.
When I go on vacation somewhere, or you go somewhere, you say, I go up to UConn, everybody goes, oh, basketball, women's basketball. That's the first thing. Can UConn have women's basketball and be the Silicon Valley Stanford?
I think so. In fact, I think they can be symbiotic. I'm trying to hook to the winning culture of basketball, and I've said this to the faculty on occasion that there's no reason a priori you would expect that a small state like Connecticut would be the only state to produce two national championships in basketball, both men's and women's, in the same year, and yet UConn did. And there's no reason why it shouldn't. And similarly, it's when you think about the kind of education transformation we're talking about and really leading in 21st century liberal arts education, you might say, well, shouldn't Princeton do that? You know, and my answer is there's no reason a priority to think UConn should lead that, but there's no reason we can't. And I think all the ingredients are here, and it's up to us. I think there's a great opportunity for us to be the national champions, if you will, you know, in the education arena as well. And similarly, with regard to competing with MIT and innovation and entrepreneurship, we have some strong programs, that, you know, some supportive donors like the Peter Wirth, who's created the Wirth Institute. And we're bringing some original ideas like these innovation professors, which is different than what MIT is doing. So we're making different bets, and we could leapfrog in some ways.
The New Haven Police Department is the first in the state to distribute harm reduction kits. According to WFSB, these kits contain items for people struggling with addiction use like clean needles, cotton, and fentanyl testing strips. Lieutenant Nick Marcuccio says they created these reduction kits to help those struggling until they are ready to receive help. These kits also include resources and information for users to get help.
The Hartford Courant reports that police are looking for a light-colored Ford Explorer after two juveniles stole the SUV and hit an officer in Cromwell on Wednesday. Two Cromwell officers were called to the suspicious scene and were informed that the two boys had stolen items from the store. They had also discovered that their car was hidden on the other side of the building. The officer was thrown to the ground in the parking lot of Walmart after approaching the SUV and speaking to the kids through an open front passenger door until they sped off. Police Chief Denise Lamont said the officer was not seriously injured.
A Manchester woman accused of neglecting approximately 200 animals at a farm in Suffield has turned herself in, police said Monday. Police seized the nearly 200 severely malnourished animals after receiving a call from a local vet claiming that a cow was not being properly cared for. The Hartford Courant reports that Rachel Kornstein was charged with 6 counts of animal cruelty. She posted $20,000 in bail and is scheduled to appear in Superior Court in Enfield February 18th. That'll do it for us here tonight at UCTV News. We thank you for sharing your time with us tonight.
Be sure to follow the whole UCTV News team on Twitter and UCTV News at UCTV News Channel 14. Thank you and good night.